what are the big common mistakes you see the new franchisees make? Like, what are some of the things that they kind of get themselves stuck in that you're like, dude, you got to do this. Like, just highlight some of the 3 or 4 things you see most frequently.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked for 3 or 4 because it really depends on the franchisee, their background, experiences. One of them is that what we see is they're new to the trade, and so they will get kind of bogged down with the project management. Or learning the trade, and they slow their sales down because they're freaked out. That's one.
Interesting.
You have other guys who are like they're sales dudes, right? So they go, and on the other side, they're not worried about project management enough. So there's always that sales and project management, and depending on the franchisee or their manager's temperament, they're going to lean too far to one side or the other.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm so stoked to have Steven with us because he's not only built his own business, helping other people do the same. Steven, tell us who you are and what are you up to?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, my name's Steven. I am the CEO and founder of ResiBrands, and we are in the home service franchising space. I started a company when I was 21, painting houses all by myself. That grew into being one of the biggest painting companies in Texas, and then we franchised it, went well, and now we have a few other brands. At the end of the day, I want to show people that the blue collar trades and home services is an amazing place to make money. It's also a place where you find a lot of purpose in what you do. We love what we do. We're helping entrepreneurs build a business.
I love it. And in home services, especially, I mean, I would say that the typical story is my dad was a plumber. I'm going to be a plumber. My dad was a painter. I'm going to be a painter. Like, how in the world did you, is that the way you fell into it? I seem to remember a story about you becoming a painter because of something like that, but walk us through how you started your first Resi brand and what that meant.
Yeah. So my parents were missionaries. So I grew up in a few different countries, mostly lived in Kenya when I was a kid.
Awesome.
And my parents, when we would come back to the US, my dad painted. And he would paint to make some money and during the break when he wasn't on the mission field. And then we came back permanently to the U.S. And for a little while, my dad ran a painting company for less than a year. And,
that's not very long.
No, it's not very long. He ended up being in another ministry role and doing some other stuff. But for a little bit, he ran a painting company. I'd paint for him on the weekends and whatnot, and did some projects for our neighbors and stuff even. And so I kind of learned how to paint there. My dad quit doing it. He moved on. And then my parents ended up moving to Texas. And my mom became a real estate agent at the same time that I was going to college. And so I started painting houses for her clients and for her real estate friends and whatnot, and would make really good money on the side. And then I would go to school and not have to work at all because I had cash.
Love it. I did the same with window washing. I was a window washer, and that's how I paid for school, was a window wash. So awesome. So you picked it up, you learned how to bid it, you got some nice referral partners and real estate agents, and you were like, this isn't so bad.
No, it was great.
Okay. So you're moving on, you're moving forward, and you start, I've heard bits and pieces, and we don't have to dive deep into your whole origination story, but you build this painting brand. You kind of hiring friends and family, and then you're like, dude, I know how to set this up. What inspired the franchise model? I mean, what made you think that part of growth was the way you wanted to take your business?
Yeah. So I had, gone through these different phases as a painter. Originally, when I started painting houses, it was just me, literally. And when I started the company, it was 2 weeks after we had gotten married. I had $12 in our bank account. And I thought I had one job booked, and that guy ended up canceling. But we started knocking on doors, building from there. And I quickly grew to a few crews, and I got really comfortable. During that period of my life, I had a few crews running. I didn't have to do that much, honestly. I had amazing crews. They took care of the jobs. I just basically did the bidding.
Right.
And then I had this moment in 2018. It was kind of it clicked for me. And I was really thinking through my business, and I was like, I'm going to be stuck at the same size forever if I don't do some things. I'm happy, my family's taken care of, I have very flexible schedule, but I noticed I was like, I want to build something bigger and something that I'm more proud of. And So I put my head down and started writing SOPs. I started focusing on systems and processes, hired a manager, and just we started scaling like crazy. Doubled my revenue in 2019, doubled my revenue again in 2020, doubled my revenue again in 2021. We were just
Love
on
it.
the growth trajectory. And
Love it.
in there, I think it must have been, I think it was around 2020. I think we were in the middle of the COVID stuff. I hired a business coach.
Right.
And we started working on this plan to build out 5 locations. And so I was like, look, man, I want to get to 10 million in revenue. We're going to do at least 2 million per location. We'd pick the city, started saving. I started writing all the manuals, everything. And then I started reading about franchising. A friend of mine gave me the book, The E-Myth. And by the end of that book, I like finished reading it. I called my business coach and I was like, I got a franchise. And it's a really big painting franchise, and I want to beat them. And I had set that.
I love it.
And so he introduced me to some people who knew franchising better, and I just kind of picked that model. And the reason that I picked that model for growth was that it was an area where I could grow the brand, obviously build my business, make more money. But I got to do it in a really rewarding way, which is helping other entrepreneurs. And sort of instead of building a big hierarchy that answered to me, it was instead just giving people the system for them to be successful for their own business. And that to me was just way more fun.
Well, I see why you did it, and I actually totally appreciate why you did it. I used to have an audio video company for about 11 years, and in that time, I was working with all sorts of subcontractors. And let's be honest, most of them are great at painting, plumbing, run a wire, whatever they do. But man, when it comes to running a business or marketing for the business or managing their books or all the other stuff that have to do with like the roles that you define in your E-Myth model, they don't do that. They just do everything themselves, and then their wife gets sucked into doing invoicing, right?
Yeah, I think like a lot of professionals in the trades, they get stuck at the technician phase. I was there for a bit. I moved up to like the manager phase, and then ultimately you have to move into the true entrepreneur leader phase. And in our franchise system, our franchisees, I would say 95% have no prior experience in the trades.
100%. So in the trade that they're going into?
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No,
wow. So you're hiring guys that want to run a painting franchise and they don't know anything about painting?
Nothing about painting. So we do roofing now. We have a handyman brand. We have a window cleaning brand. We have a garage door brand. And 95% of our franchisees had no prior experience in that trade. And so the reason that works is that business is ultimately about people. It's about vision casting. It's about leadership and sales, right? Like it's that simple. But and then if you're good at those things, you can hire the painters who are great painters, and they'll 100%. You can hire window washers, hire garage techs. So that's the model, and we've helped people build pretty large businesses at this point. So
I love it. So the franchise model works, and you've got a really fun array of services that you're promoting right now, that you've built the model for. Yep. And for those listening, links in the bio, go check it out. I mean, it really is ResiBrands. You've got a really fantastic offering, and I'm guessing more and more will come, because my guess is that some of your franchises who buy one thing are interested in buying another thing, and they can still work out of the same office, probably.
Yep. We have that one painter franchisee. He just became our first franchisee for a roofing concept. So some people have brands in one city and just keep growing from there. Others, they want to rinse and repeat. They want to take the singular brand that they're in and then scale into more cities.
Dude, I love it. Congrats. That is so cool. Now, most people don't think like you. Most people do get stuck in this model of like, I built a cool $2 million painting business in Austin. I'm happy. And that's okay. Yeah. But you had the itch to go bigger. Walk us back a little bit. And you read the E-Myth. You hired a coach. Why did you hire a coach? Why did you feel like you needed a coach to kind of help you progress as a business leader?
Yeah, I hired a business coach because my wife told me that I needed to. So And she noticed, she noticed that there were areas that I was getting stuck. And I think every
Yeah,
entrepreneur gets stuck. It's just how long do you get stuck, right?
totally.
And and you got to kick that thing into 4-wheel drive and or get out of the car and start pushing. But like you got to get unstuck. And I've been there. There was a period where I was stuck painting houses. I felt like I could never trust my painters if I wasn't there. So I was always at the house, always
Totally.
and I was stuck in that mindset. And finally it clicked for me, got out of that. And then it's like, I was in the manager mindset. And I thought nobody else was going to be able to sell. Nobody else was going to manage my customers for me. And was very paranoid about handing that off. And I tell people all the time, these brushes to me represent delegation. They represent all the brushes I've put down, all the jobs I used to do that I now trust somebody else to do. Because there was a moment when I was still painting homes and my guys were running behind, and I had gotten back from doing an estimate or whatever, and they're not going to, it didn't look like they're going to finish the house until maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And we had a job to start in the morning. And so I picked up the brush and started painting, and I'm like, no. If I keep picking up the brush, I'll never grow. And so I put the brush back down and said, hey guys, sorry that you're going slow, but I'll see you in the morning at the other house. Let me know when this one's done. And and I stopped painting. Like I wouldn't pick up the brush anymore. And from that day, I was like, I will sell. You guys do your role. I've taught you how to do it. I'm going to go sell and keep building the business. And that was smart. It was a critical moment. And that's how, like, you get unstuck by like, it wasn't comfortable. Delegating. Like, they were all frustrated that I didn't help them finish because that's what I normally did. So you gotta, it's that delegation, and sometimes it means they're gonna screw it up, right? And that's what we're worried about. But to grow, you have to have the stomach for mistakes. You have to have the stomach for other people to do something, and sometimes they're not gonna do it very well, and then you have to go through that. But that's how you get unstuck.
I am so glad you're here, and I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. You'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode. I love it. I really appreciate you walking us through that, because that is such a big deal. And it is what keeps people stuck. And I've now talked with hundreds of business founders who talk about the same thing. It's always people, processes, and tools. And you wrote SOPs, you started hiring the right people to plug in to lead a project, and then the tools, we can get into that a little bit later, but I'm sure that a lot of the tools you put together for the painting business are things you have replicated in the other businesses. And so I guess what I really want to know is, like, your wife says, dude, you don't know everything. Go get a coach. You get a coach and you're like, oh, and you read a book, which for those listening, if you have not read the E-Myth, please do. To me, that book, I read it in college, and this was 27 years ago. That book is my every other year reread that I always stick with. And I just recommend you do it just to have that re-emphasis of, I got to build my org chart. I got to figure out who's going where. I got to, how do I wear these hats?
That book is, if you're a new business owner, it should be an every year book for probably 3-4 years. And
Totally.
even then, I still go back to it. I do the audio occasionally. If I've got like a long road
I
trip,
do too.
I'll throw that thing
I
on.
totally do.
And I even have like a condensed version, like a summary version. I'll throw that one on,
Yeah,
listen in 30 minutes, just get all the reminders. It's a good book,
totally.
and it's
Totally.
very, very basics. It's not anything like, there's nothing in that book that you're like, oh wow, that's like some secret. It's just like all these very basic things, and and once they all click, you're like, that's how you run a business that doesn't need you
I
to do
love it.
everything.
I love it. So as you sell the franchises now, and you're getting people into this, I'm a business owner mode. I'm a service oriented guy. I'm imagining you're trying to help them kind of jump out of the hats that we just talked about
Yep.
quicker than you did, and quicker than most of us do. Um, what are the big common mistakes you see the new franchisees make? Like, what are some of the things that they kind of get themselves stuck in that you're like, dude, you got to do this? Like, just highlight some of the 3 or 4 things you see most frequently.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked for 3 or 4, because it really depends on the franchisee, their background,
Yeah.
experiences. One of them is that what we see is they're new to the trade, and so they will get kind of bogged down with the project management,
Yeah.
or learning the trade, and they slow their sales down because they're freaked out. That's one that
Interesting.
you have. Other guys are like, they're sales dudes, right? So they go 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 go, and on the other
Yeah.
side, they're not worried about project management enough. So there's always that balance of sales and project management, and depending on
Right.
the franchisee or their manager's temperament, they're going to lean too far to one side or the other.
Totally.
And then I think that every business owner in the first year will have a day, week, or maybe a whole month where they just want to throw in the towel. They want to quit. They're done. They're over it. And the shorter that you can be stuck in that bad mindset, like, here's a reality. It's
Yeah.
like I've never met an entrepreneur who was like, no, my first year was perfect. No problems. I've never met them. They're like, no, I wanted to
No,
quit on month 3. I'm glad I didn't. But then I want to quit on
totally.
month 8 and month 10. And then on month 18.
100%. 100%.
It's just, how long do you let your brain sit there? So it's
Right.
getting out of that as quickly as possible. And then
Right.
making sure you're talking to people in your life, whether it's family members or other business owners or other franchisees, who will help you get out of that bad mindset quickly. I think
Right.
that's because if you get around somebody else who also is upset about their first year of business, then of course, like, you're not going to get out of that. And so getting
Right.
around other people who are driving and doing well, that's the best way to get
Love it.
moving forward. So I think that's some of the areas that I see franchisees get stuck. And the truth is, they're not really any different than any other business. And every
Totally.
business will want to quit at some point. Some do. Many persevere and just keep crushing it, right, and go for it.
Right. Right.
But you also have, in every business, you kind of have the 3 main legs of a stool: sales, I would say, like project management or quality control, and then administration work.
Sure.
And it's very normal for most people to be really good at one, okay at another, and terrible at the third. And
I love that you said that. Yeah.
the quicker that you got to find out which of those 3 are you terrible at and hire for. And the
Right.
other one that you're weak at, there's no way around it. In the beginning, you got to get good at that one too.
100%, dude. No, 100%. I literally, over the past few years, I've built an assessment to help business founders understand where they sit, because it's like, I look at, there's 12 metrics that I think are like the big growth blockers. And to your point, most people, they totally nail it on like 2 or 3 things. They're just like awesome. Yep. And then there's like 5 or 6 things they can muscle the way through. And then there's always those 2 or 3 things that they just ignore because I don't even want to think about that, So I think it's really smart what you're doing there. And anyway, so as you identify those things and you help your founders, your franchisees discover where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. The other thing you mentioned is the community part. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the community that you built in your ResiBrands kind of franchisee thing. I don't know to what extent you've built this out, but I see that you have like a ResiCon and you're like getting together to support each other. Yep. How else are you supporting your founders and your franchisees?
Yeah. So our franchisees, I'll touch on the community thing. So,
Yeah.
we have a lot of people come to training together. So they'll come to the training, and you see them kind of move on like classes. They tend to have really good relationships from people they know during training. Um,
Right.
some people I've got like there's three guys that they came to our discovery day to learn about it before they bought the franchise, and the three of them
Right.
rode around in the back of my truck, and they did and all three bought, and all three are very close still. And so you kind of have stuff either the discovery process or from
Right.
training process where people build really great relationships. But then, yeah, we have ResiCon, which is an annual event conference that it's actually ResiCon is going to be a public event in July. So this time
Love it.
we'll have sessions that are for franchisees only, but we're going to have some stuff about blue collar trades and building business that's for anybody to attend. So I
Love
think
it.
it's at the ACL Center here in Austin. It's going to be a pretty big event.
That's
So we have that.
fantastic.
We have chats. So our franchisees are helping out each other on group chats every day. And then we do rallies, so regional rallies where we put on sales events, and the franchisees and their teams will come. Also, like we did just in the last few months, we did Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Portland, Oregon. And I think and we have one in Austin coming up, one in Miami. So we're doing these events where we get 10 to 20 people in a region all together, and we just do sales tactics, sales training, and following up with customer stuff. And so we'll generate anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 at those events, and it's really fun, and it creates a lot of community. And then we help our franchisees with every, like the way I say it is, we can't build your business for you, but what we can do is give you the blueprints, the tools. The instructions, a coach to help you figure it out, all the vendors, materials, like everything that you would need. Like if you're thinking of it as like building a house, right? We're going to give you everything you need to build a business. And ultimately you have to put on that tool belt, build a team, and do it. But our commitment is that they would get the very, very best tools and resources to build a painting company, a window washing company, or whatever.
I love it. I love it. You know, I've never really been in the franchise marketplace much until this year. And I started an engagement with a food franchise, and it was super interesting to kind of see the roles of operators who are not owners, and the way they think about their position versus operators who are the franchisee, and the ownership that they take versus the ones that are just hired in that role. And I think that it does work to hire people to run franchises for you if you just want to buy and keep building little franchises all over the place. But what kind of things do you recommend for first time owners? And I want you to kind of speak to a lot of people listening to this have started a business and they're still in launch mode. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure things out that you've already figured out for your franchisees. How should they be thinking about their transition out of launch mode, or should they be looking at a franchise model? Because let's face it, I mean, you and I both know it sucks sometimes getting over that hump. It helps when you've got someone who says, oh, dude, here's what you need to do here.
Yes. So franchising is great for a lot of people, and it's also not great for everybody. So I tell people is, look, so franchising doesn't make building a business easy. It makes it simple. Right. And that's important because when you have something difficult, so being an entrepreneur is hard. Like there's no way around it. It's hard. Totally. You're going to have customers that are difficult, employees that are difficult. You're going to have all sorts of problems pop up, and you're responsible for it. So, but what franchising does is it makes it really simple. Here's the process. Here's the system. Here's how you get leads. Here's how you take care of your customers. Here's how you find your painters. Here's how you do everything. It's all written out. It's all spelled out, and you have a coach to walk you through all of it. So it really simplifies the whole thing. And so what's great about that is for many people, that simplicity makes entrepreneurism more attainable. It makes it something that they were nervous about going out on their own. Franchising makes it to where like, no, I think I can do this because they have the support, they have the community, they have the training, they have the simple system. And that makes it to where a lot of people are willing to move forward who may not have otherwise. But what you don't have control over is the system. You don't have control over the trademark brand. And so there is some rules you have to follow as a franchisee that you have to follow as maybe a traditional entrepreneur.
That's true.
And so
but sometimes those rules help, and sometimes those rules make it harder.
Yeah, and everything should help, but of course, sometimes there's things that maybe a franchisee might view that way, and sometimes there's maybe franchise systems where the system used to work and doesn't work anymore, and they haven't changed their system, and they need to. But the truth is, there's some people who don't want that. They don't want anybody else telling them, "Hey, this is the way we do it. This is how the brand guide works. You got to make sure it looks like this at all times." And they don't want that. They're a little more of a free spirit in that way, and they should probably go do their own thing. Franchising is not for them. Franchising is for people who want to be entrepreneurs, who value systems and community, and the coach that is offered. And if that's what you value, it can be an incredible place to build a business.
Right. I see what you're saying, and I love what you said, because it's all about community, having those rules, having those standards. Yep. I've got a close friend that a family that owned a print shop here in my town for a long time on their own.
Yep.
And all of a sudden one day they bought into a franchise that was a bigger print, a nationwide brand. And I was like, and I asked him, I'm like, what was that for? Yeah, it's really interesting that you had been running the business and being moderately successful. Why did you jump into a franchise model?
Yeah.
And it was just, to your point, they needed the guidelines. They needed the side rails. They needed someone to be like, they needed that community too, of like, hey, this is what we're doing over here. We kind of got a similar market as you, and this is what's working for us. Yeah. And they've grown much more since they become a franchisee than when they were running independent.
Yeah. There's a story, I don't remember his name. So there's a Burger King franchisee who he died a few years ago, but his family just sold last year all of his Burger King. He had 1,000 Burger Kings.
Holy cow.
And he sold it back to the Burger King's holding company his family did. They sold it back for $1 billion. So they got $1 billion.
That's a whopper of a deal.
That's a whopper of a deal. Here's the cool thing. So I was researching that story because whenever I see big headlines like that about franchise stuff, I kind of like to dig in, learn as much as I can about the individual or the deal.
Totally.
That guy, he had his own burger shop, and he had something like, I don't remember the exact number, so don't hold me to this. It was like a 20 or 30 stores.
Right.
And they weren't going very well. Right. And so they were kind of in a tough spot and he didn't know what to do. So he reached out to Burger King and said, can I turn all these into Burger King? You guys have customers, you guys have people coming through, you have proven systems, great marketing. Right. He turned them all into Burger Kings, and then he grew it to 1,000 Burger Kings. That's by buying out other owners and stuff. And then his family sold it for $1 billion after his death.
Not a bad gig.
Not a bad deal.
Listen, I got to tell you, for those listening who are in the services industries, this is not a bad play. Like, truthfully, your dad taught you the trade. You're good at it, but you may not be the best business owner. I highly suggest you take a look at what these guys are doing. ResiBrands has a system. They have processes and tools. And I'm telling you, it's all about systems, processes, and tools. And the people are ancillary. Like, you can plug people in if you know what roles to put them in. Yeah. And so Steven, like, I got to know, like, with you building this model out, what attracted the eyes of a Cody Sanchez? Because I'm so curious. What does she bring to the table in helping you, and what does she see in what you're building to want to be a part of what you're building?
Yeah. So Cody, she does a lot of videos on like boring businesses and stuff. She had seen one of our brands, I think, on a podcast or something. And so she reached out, and she also lives here in Austin. So it was easy for us to connect. She did some content about one of our companies. And then she saw what our systems were and all the potential. And so after she reached out to do a video together, she then was here, and after meeting with my team and doing the interviews and stuff, she texted me afterwards and was like, hey, I want to talk about partnership. And I was surprised by, and wasn't on my, to be honest, wasn't really on my radar. Definitely wasn't something I was going to ask. And so we talked, and a few months of due diligence and whatnot, we partnered up, and ultimately, like, she's well known in the small business space, especially when it comes to acquisition, but also the whole idea of boring businesses are a gold mine. And
Yeah.
for her to step in with Resi validates that, one, blue collar services are a great place to build businesses. Two,
Totally.
franchising is a great option. It's not the only option, but it's a good one. And then ultimately, like, you know, three, it was a way with her audience and stuff for us to grow our brand. And so all around, it's been a really, really great thing, and we've been happy with it. So
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, that's impressive. And it's really cool what you're doing. And it's such a short period of time. I mean, you're talking from 2011 into 2017, 18 is when you first started thinking about the concept of other stores. I love what you're doing, man. How many total franchisees have you got now?
So we nearly 200 owners, and our owners own about an average of 3 territories. So we're just over 600 total territories on a franchise.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, congrats. That is so awesome. Way to go.
Yeah, it's been a wild 3 years.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Well, way to go. And for those listening who are in the services industry, especially who just don't know how to run the business side, I highly recommend you take a look at ResiBrands. And for those of you looking to build a $1 or $2 million, maybe even $3 or $4 million franchise, doing stuff that's fun and being creative and being out there in the field feels good. Take a look at this. Take a look at this opportunity, and I hope it works for you. Steven, thanks so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate talking to our audience.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Steven and I, as we were chatting, I alluded to the fact that we have a way to gauge your growth readiness. So check out growthreadiness.com. That's right, growthreadiness.com. If you're not sure why you're stuck in your growth game, this is the test. This is an easy, free way to determine what is working for you, what isn't working for you in your growth journey, and just check it out, because I've found that most people are really, really good at 2 or 3 things. They can muscle their way through another 4 or 5 things, and then they just need help on the others. So check out what we're talking about at growthreadiness.com. Take our free assessment, and we would love to hear from you. Do you need some help kind of overcoming the stuff you're stuck with? We're here. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of the shows. We thank you for being part of the Growth and Scaling podcast.